Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk a little bit about Jasmy because it's been a while since we've gone over kind of some recent happenings as far as what's going on within the Jasmy ecosystem and the chart and the price and all that type of stuff. So I want to do just kind of a quick overview and take a look at that, as well as we have seen some recent drops within the crypto market. And so I want to do just a kind of a really super quick overview of that as well, so we can see if we can get maybe a better idea of where things might be going. So anyway, let's go on ahead and dive right in. So starting out, what we can see on crypto bubbles is overall it's a pretty red day. Obviously FTT is kind of the only one up majorly. There's a couple others here and there that are green, but overall pretty much everything is red. We can see Jasmy right here minus 6.8% on the day. Not great obviously, but overall, Jasmy's gone up a pretty decent chunk over the past little bit. And so being down, 6.8%, not the end of the world overall. We'll look at kind of some of the recent price performance on Jasmy and kind of what it could mean. But before we go on and do that, I did want to take a look at the liquidations. And what we can see is over the past 24 hours, we can see that there's been a ton liquidated from the market. 237 million is obviously a pretty substantial amount. Of course, primarily within Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think that's probably to be expected just generally. Solana's kind of the next one here, and then others kind of, everything else within the market. As we can see, almost all of it is liquidating longs. Now we're going to look at the Bitcoin chart here in a second. We can see that, this is why, right? We've seen a pretty massive pullback coming in over the past couple of days. There's some geopolitical tensions kind of ongoing, particularly between Iran and Israel. And so that's kind of the major reason why I think we're starting to see a little bit of fear here. Also looking at the Bitcoin chart, we can see we did kind of reach the top of this channel. And so, we did get rejected. And so we are starting to see a pullback. I did mention this was kind of one of the possibilities that we could have seen. Now, whether we see this continue to, basically how far we see it go back, I am not certain. I have mentioned before that, I do think kind of a movement down to this liquidity zone is possible. However, one thing I did want to note, we can see, we do have a higher high here. So we've kind of technically broken the downtrend structure that we've seen as far as forming lower highs. So if we were to keep this uptrend structure, what we would need to see is likely something, price needing to kind of settle out before we hit kind of the high 53 range, as this is kind of what the most recent low was. Seeing something kind of, between maybe 55 and 58 maybe, that would potentially be a spot where we could come back to, maybe we even just settle out right here, because we are kind of sitting on a line of support, at least recently at this run up that we saw a couple weeks ago is looking like. So that's another option as well. If we do look at the Jasmy chart, we can see that Jasmy has pulled back a pretty significant amount, which obviously isn't great, but still long term things are looking decent. We are kind of starting to settle back onto this point of support, which, as we mentioned, the first option was to kind of settle on this level of support and hopefully put in some volume here, which we of course were not able to do. We kind of broke through it and then immediately came back down. I think the next option now is going to hopefully be sitting on this level of support, putting in some volume here, and then we can continue to move back up. If that doesn't happen, then it's probably looking at we're going to probably be seeing the point, I guess 1.7 1.8 cent range, kind of in this area. We do have a decent chunk of support in this range. We have a little bit of support, I guess, here as well, kind of the 2 cent range. So overall, I think kind of the main hope is that we put in some volume here. However, if we don't, then obviously, we'll continue to climb further back. If you do believe in the long-term prospects of Jasmy, maybe it's not all that concerning to you. It just is another opportunity to buy at a discount. However, usually it is nice to see these coins put in some volume at key levels of support and hold it, just because that means that the community continues to kind of keep their faith and keep their convictions in the long-term prospects of the token. So that's something that I'm hoping we could see. As you can see, I do base all of my charting on Margex just because I do trade here fairly actively. You can see we did actually take a couple of Bitcoin short trades. I actually closed out before this recent leg down, but you can see I closed a little bit out here at about 200%, and then I closed the rest of my trade out at a little over 300%. So obviously not too bad. As I mention every single time, leverage trading is not without its risks, but if you do know what you're doing and can kind of play some of these levels of support and resistance and things like that fairly well, then you can do relatively well. If it is something you're interested in, I do have that link in the description below. There is no KYC or VPN needed when you're signing up for Margex, so you can essentially just get signed up and start trading if that's something you want to do. Also, they do have up to a $10,000 deposit bonus. So again, kind of another incentive to get started. If that is something you're interested in, do be responsible and don't do anything crazy if you're not super familiar with how to trade leverage. So anyway, moving on, what I want to take a look at is the liquidation map. Again, guys, I don't know what else to say here. I mean, this has been incredibly accurate, at least as far as I can see, over the past several months at this point. We go look back at my channel history. We've been talking about a pullback for a while because the liquidation map said so, right? I mean, we just follow the liquidation map and pretty much just do what it says, and it's pretty accurate. One thing that I do stress a lot is making sure that there are confluence between the 3 time frames. You will see that we do not have that today, which means I'm probably not going to be doing anything as far as taking a trade is concerned. But what we can see here is we actually have started to flip back to liquidating shorts, meaning that a price move to the upside makes the most sense. And so what we can see here is, it's possible, since there are so many liquidation points to the downside, that maybe we do continue to see, maybe a move down to like the high 61s. You could see that this would liquidate almost $700 million of short, or of longs, excuse me. And then, potentially, obviously, the shorts would continue to pile up as we moved all the way down. And so then, potentially we could see a move back to the upside. If we look at the 7-day, we can see same type of thing. It's definitely favored liquidating shorts. But again, if we're looking at like a move, what small move could liquidate the most, it would still be a kind of a move to the downside. Again, kind of like the high 61 range is kind of the main point at where most of this would get liquidated. However, if we look at the 30-day, we can see that we don't have the confluence between all 3, right? Shorts are starting to stack up. However, it is still biased towards liquidating longs. Again, a lot of volume of liquidations is sitting really, really close to what the price is currently. And so this is something where, I could expect that we see, a further move down. Again, this is actually looking closer to like the low 61 range might make the most sense. And then potentially we start to see a move back up. So again, as I've said though, if any of you are trading, I usually don't make any sort of trade unless there's confluence between all 3 of them. So right now, I'm probably, since I did close that trade out, it seems like maybe a little bit prematurely, but you're not going to win them all. Ultimately, you need to find a strategy that works for you and is consistent. So, that's kind of ultimately what I've been doing there. But since I closed it, a little bit early and we don't have confluence between the liquidation maps, I'm probably just going to be sitting on my hands for a couple days until we can kind of see how things unfold. So the last thing I want to take a look at regarding Jasmy specifically is kind of some of the news that we're seeing. And what we can see recently is, so this is actually an app that I've been using fairly recently. It's called MaxData, and it's really, really nice because it's a pretty strong like data aggregator. And so what we can see here is this actually scrapes like data from like all of the internet about various like crypto projects and whatnot. We can see here that I actually just typed in Jasmy and it pulls everything that it can find relating to Jasmy. And so we can see recently, not a whole ton of news coming out, only about 5 articles or so in the last week, but we can see that the majority of them have been bullish. They do give you kind of this like banner on the left side that indicates whether it's bullish or not. It also is like a really good charting app, so you can use it here. Like I said, since I do trade primarily within Margex, I don't do a ton of charting within this app, just because I like to kind of have the draw or like the analysis and stuff that I do on the place I'm actually trading. But if this is something where you're wanting to chart somewhere and kind of like the hub that we've got, it is pretty useful. What we can see here though regarding the news is, I really like it for both the news and then the economic calendar. We'll go to the economic calendar in a second. What we can see with the news here is, overall pretty bullish sentiment on Jasmy still. I think this looks pretty good. You can see kind of how the price did 3 hours from publication of each of these, as well as it will summarize some of these if you have if you want to look further into, what this news outlet is talking about specifically. But ultimately, it seems like there's a lot of sentiment that, Jasmy is still pretty optimistic. People are still feeling pretty good about the long-term prospects of Jasmy. We do see, that Captain Altcoin is saying that, Jasmy might even do a 2x in the coming weeks. I think it's possible, right? I mean, as we've seen on the Jasmy chart, volume is almost hilariously low at this point, and so like we do, if we start to see even a little bit of volume coming in, like, we could see a run of like this type of proportion coming. So that's something just to consider as well, is, the volume still is low, right? Retail is still not back in any meaningful way. And so, when they do start to come back and people are looking for, really interesting projects and things that could really kind of play a pretty meaningful like role in innovating into the future, I think people will probably be finding Jasmy. And so I think keeping kind of an eye on the sentiment in the market as well is also really useful, just because then we can kind of see. Also, it's a great place to find some news related to Jasmy. I know that the Jasmy team, particularly like through their Medium articles and their website and all that type of stuff, they don't have too many press releases going on, and so sometimes finding news, trying to keep up with some of the some of the rumors and things that are going on within the Jasmy space can be a little bit of a challenge. And so this is kind of a nice way to keep up with the news in the overall space and just kind of gauging overall sentiment within the market. So I've been using this lately. It's been pretty useful. I have enjoyed it. I usually go in and kind of read through some of these articles and get other people's takes on what they're doing and why Jasmy is good or bad or whatever else. And so that's what I've been doing recently. The other thing I want to show just real quick is the economic calendar. It has been really nice because this allows you to turn it to essentially just like major things. This is just like all things. I like to just look at like the major events. We can see, we've got jobless claims coming in October. We've got S&P. We've got, national employment here. This is all just U.S. stuff. Obviously, we've got like Switzerland CPI as well. There's a lot of different stuff here that shows kind of like potential market moves that could impact crypto particularly. So this is something that's been useful to look over as well. Like I said, there's a lot of things going on within the market. Obviously, Jasmy, there hasn't been a ton of news recently coming out, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? A lot of times these teams are just trying to deliver on the vision that they've already set out, and there's no need to keep like reiterating the vision or re-explaining. If you want to know what it is, it's already there for you to go and find, right? And so not too concerning, from kind of the Jasmy team overall, particularly since they are Japanese. Communicating most of their stuff in English does take extra effort and work and things like that. And so I think where the Jasmy team is at so far, I'm not super concerned. Like I said, with price action, as we could see in the chart, we are kind of starting to settle down on that line of support. I'm really, really hoping that we can kind of hold that and put in some volume there. But, if we don't, obviously, we may be coming back down to some of the lows that we saw, in August and early September. If that does happen, not the end of the world. Like I said, or like I've talked about, I guess, like before on the channel, we're still not back in alt season yet, right? And usually when projects like Jasmy, and things similar to that, when they really start to take off, is when there's a lot of hype, when there's a lot of really positive and bullish sentiment, when there's a lot of retail who are looking to kind of find some of these innovative projects. That's when these types of projects do particularly well. And so the fact that we haven't seen much of that so far isn't all that concerning to me. It's just something that we need to keep an eye on overall. Anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. I do like covering kind of recent updates on Jasmy and going over the news and things like that, just to make sure that we're all kind of up to date with what's going on and we're staying aware of kind of the overall developments in the market. So if you did, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, things that you want to mention to me or think I should know, that would also be really useful as well. The best way to do that is just dropping a comment in the comment section. All of these things do help me get pushed out to the wider YouTube algorithm and have more people find my channel. So if you would be willing to do that, that would really, really help me out. I do have that subscriber goal of getting to 10,000 by the end of the year. I do know it is a tall task, but I wanted to see if it's something that I could make work. So anyway, if you guys do have any interest in helping me do that, a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff really does go a super long way. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.